Woodkey here, welcoming you back to my YouTube channel. About to resume reading in Parabolic Magnetic Key for segment number 3. And hopefully it is most rockin'. Well, holding my umbrella of illusion is what keeps my world dry and comfortable. Chuckles immediately turned into laughter, and as the day progressed, wisecracks turned to even more wisecracks. At midday, clouds began accumulating and obscuring the sun. Neither Mick nor Dave paid the change much attention, being too lost in thought at the time. Mick snapped out of his trance because he heard clashing metal emanating from the distance. He stopped walking and said, "Did you hear that, Dave? Sounds like a skirmish." "Yes, I heard it, but it doesn't sound like a full battle, only a handful of sword or battle axe fights." Mick turned his head so his right ear was facing where he thought the metallic sounds were coming from. He listened carefully and communicated to Dave, "I think if we get a little closer, we'll be able to see better. Let's sneak up on them, staying within the tree shadows, especially within the dark shadows of the hemlocks to the left." "Sure, Mick, but keep from snapping the twigs this time. We don't want to relive what occurred at Vindelist." "Definitely, we don't want that again. I think that whole town doesn't want that to happen again." The pair chuckled at the nostalgia. They crept silently atop the gnarled bases of the ancient storied hemlocks and got close enough to the action to fully understand what was going on. They saw 5 pairs of men sparring with each other vigorously, for a reason unbeknownst to them at the time. Dave whispered to Mick, "So, what's your input? Should we just ignore them, or see what they're up to?" Mick replied, "I think it would be best to ignore them for now, because I'm honestly not in the mood for talking and dealing with possible repercussions." "Sounds good to me. Besides, my mind is full at the moment. No need for additional matters for reflection," Dave replied. "They might not even be part of the army, just farmers playing around." "True." The day wore on, and Mick and Dave realized it had just been farmers, and that the real army, Olfenkirk's army, was headed for a stopover in the town of Zant. Ready for a little rest themselves, the pair started to make plans for the evening. "Dave, near that rock outcropping looks just as good a place as any for the nightly campsite. I'm pretty defunct. With the army sojourning just ahead, we might as well stop too." Wiping sweat from his forehead, Dave replied, "Okay, I too could use some downtime right about now. I'll set up the tents." "Alright, and I'll gather all necessary firewood, paper birch bark, and some of those raspberries we passed on the way here for a midnight stack," said Mick as he unloaded his gear. "I'll also perform anything else ingenuity suggests." "Perfect." That abandoned shack in which we stayed last night sure had its high points. But sometimes nothing beats a good old-fashioned night in a homemade tent. Don't you think, Dave? "Definitely. One of my favorite activities in all of life," Dave declared. "Did you happen to inadvertently notice what exactly was written on that roll of paper back at the cabin?" "No, I didn't. Did you?" "Not really. I think it was just one of those information parchments describing inconsequential comings and goings. I guess we'll learn all about the important comings and goings when we go into Zant tomorrow." "That we will, Mick." When Mick finished gathering wood for the fire and igniting it, he said, "It turns out that Brahm was wrong about where the next battle is going to be, because I am not hearing any battles over there in Zant." "Oh yeah, that's right, Mick. I almost forgot he said that. I do hope he is getting his immaculate sets of armor sold before having to walk the treacherous road to Sarwa." "As do I. My heart goes with him." Dave stirred up the pot of stew cooking over the fire, loaded to the brim with tasty ingredients. He recalled and gleefully recited to Mick the occurrence a year ago when the two of them were playing cards with unconventional thieves, one armed individual and an elderly lady missing half her hair, and how they had to go to drastic measures to get their stolen money back from the unusual robbers. After the good-humored expatiation, Dave prompted Mick to sharpen his sword. "Thanks for the reminder, Dave. I almost forgot. Without you, I would have run headfirst into battle, without the ability to slice even a delicate loaf of bread. Now I know you're exaggerating." The night progressed, and more stories were told. camaraderie at their campsite was as thick as the stew. Mick and Dave were no doubt as close to being blood brothers as humanly possible without actually being so. Why do you think Gunther's and Hageren's company lost in the Battle of Smirkov against the Black Bear? Mick asked Dave. It's anyone's guess, but I think it had a lot to do with the power of his notable warriors Jason Thorncat, Sven Algar, Steve Johnson, and Ralph Engelheinz, and the fire with which they play. Those four warriors, when fighting together, can turn the tide of any battle, even when fighting numbers much greater. They say Gunther's squad alone had at least 1,200 men, mentioned Mick, an impressive number. A single person can never be underestimated, and one day you and I will turn the tide of this war. Let us have a drink to that. Fantastic, said Dave enthusiastically. We will. Chapter 2. The night crept ever steadily on, and while the two men slept soundly in their tents, one of the passes of the Bostic mountain range, many miles away, played host to a notable battle of archers. Although technically the conflict didn't occur in the mountains, more so the weather-eroded foothills of the mountain range. Provoked, range archers of Gorab and Sarah fired the arrows at Bamsov's archers of militia at great range, continuing to do so well into the morning. Neither had many casualties because a close-range conflict never ensued. Nevertheless, blood was spilled and soldiers were lost. Gorab and Sarah's war with militia was in full swing. Because the Bostic foothills were so far from any other company, sending reinforcements would have been difficult. Eventually, news of the battle reached General Ovenkirky, the Black Bear, information which put him into a quandary at the time. He had to decide whether to continue pressing on to Anulski or avert course and aid his countrymen, Rayton and his archers. Having crawled out of their tents, Mick and Dave once again performed their morning joint cracking. Afterwards, they looked around at their campsite and remembered the drinking and camaraderie the night before. They gave each other a look, the kind of look that only two friends can give each other, the kind that would intimidate many people due to the sense of unbreakable loyalty it implied. So, Mick, do we hope to accomplish anything this morning in Zant, other than a little reconnaissance? I think that's the main plan, but if we run into some of the other warriors, it would be pleasant to talk of experiences. It would also be nice to run into Jason Thorncat and relive some old memories of our childhood. Yeah, hopefully that happens. I haven't seen him since that time the three of us broke into Old Man Johnson's cabin just to look at his ancient sword collection, Dave communicated while reflecting. Yep, that was a good time. Too bad his parents sent him away after that. I wondered to where they dispatched him. I never knew. Me neither. Maybe we'll see him today and find out. Alright, we will end there. And segment 4, I'll start. Maybe today yet, maybe tomorrow. We will find out.